folks, we're not going to come on here and just talk about Kenny Mayne. We are Debate Amongst Friends. Doc and Prof here, coming at you live. Doc, Aaron Rodgers trolled the football world last night, and it was the funniest thing I've ever seen. Just shows the lexicon of dependency to get that hot story.
You know, I feel like this is a season of trolling as we've gotten Aaron, we've gotten basketball bust Kwame Brown out here, and he's trolling everybody. I mean, he's not leaving any prisoners.
No.
But that's not why we're here today, boyo. You know what Tuesday is. It's gloomy outside. It looks like it's gonna rain. It's very, shall we say, dark out.
I see what you did there.
So that means it must be time for Dark Side of the Ring, episode 3, The Unlikely Rise of Nick Gage, the king of American hardcore and a death match icon. Wow. I mean, first of all, I've never heard of this guy a damn
And I
life.
was gonna say that I didn't think you knew who Nick Gage
Yeah,
was
no,
before
no.
this.
I mean, of course you see, I would associate this with, obviously backyard wrestling. I
Of
mean,
course.
that's pretty much what it is and what it was. And obviously last season we talked about New Jack and mass transits incident. Yes, RIP to New Jack, who did just recently pass away. But this particular episode had so much blood shed everywhere. It was kind of like, why would you put yourself through this
Why
for
would you
the
do this?
yes, like if JR was there, it's like, don't do this. By God, that man has a family, was a wrestling promotion.
Well, that wrestling
Um,
promotion was I don't give a about your family.
oh my God, and our wrestlers. But the leader of the MDK gang,
Mm-hmm.
um, Nick Gage. I mean, my goodness, I don't even know where to start, boyo.
I mean, I guess we should talk about how the wrestling world needed, air quotes, a successor to ECW.
Hmm.
Because of course them being bought out by WWE, which of course happened years before the invasion stuff
Hmm.
happened.
Hmm.
Um, and if y'all don't know
No,
about
yeah.
that story, y'all should definitely check out. There's a whole bunch of different sources that you can go to talk about the downfall of ECW. In fact, I'm pretty sure there's a DVD about that, but we're not talking about that. So there were some promotions that's trying to, catch that lightning in the bottle like ECW had to bring that hardcore wrestling because I mean, yeah, WWE kind of had that, but it wasn't to the same level.
Hmm.
And now here comes Nick Gage, a man who, and he even admitted this during this whole thing. He fed off the crowd,
Right, and he
and
used that a few times. Yeah.
and every single time the crowd is like hyping him up, bro,
Oh goodness, don't
he
go there.
always felt like he had to up the ante.
I
And of
feel like there
course,
was no ante.
there was a John Moxley sighting during the show,
Hmm.
and he was talking about the pizza cutter, which came back a few times on the episode as well.
Right,
And this dude would legitimately slice you up.
slice your face. Yeah. Which we'll definitely get to. I guess let's start from his humble upbringings
Mm-hmm.
in our great state of New Jersey. where obviously he talks about his mom and her being the love of his life and things like that, how sweet she was, and how him and his brother both got into wrestling at the same time due to the fact that hey, they just love to fight.
Yep.
Fighting was their thing, which is completely fine. I'm okay with people using what they like to do as a profession. So instead of just going around and beating innocent people up, they join wrestling. I am completely okay with this. Some
Yeah.
people choose boxing, some people choose MMA. They chose wrestling.
Although don't call me a romantic to say I'm pretty sure he had some inspiration from the first Rocky movie as well.
Clearly.
Okay.
So you get to wrestling. Obviously, you have this, like you said, this promotion, Game Changer Wrestling.
hmm
And Nick Gage and his brother join, and I mean they're taking her. Can we talk about the light bulbs? Like out of all things, I know they come pretty easy.
They do.
They're probably cheap, but
Very cheap.
light light bulbs in the ring, all
Fluorescent
around the
light
ring,
bulbs.
fluorescent. Yes. Um, then you have, of course, the legendary thumbtacks. Obviously, you have the legendary barbed wire.
hmm
I saw some. I didn't see too many tables, but I'm sure they're out
There are
there,
some tables out there. Yeah.
which is crazy because tables, ladders and chairs. I'm sure it's probably introduced somewhere from that, and then of course barbed wire comes over, with your legends. But wow, so we get to this point where he's going against a guy from Germany, I believe his name was
Yep.
Thumbtack Jack,
Gotta get
Thumbtack
back.
Charlie, Thumbtack
Back
something with
to the
thumbtacks.
past.
And
Thumbtack Jack. Watch
I'm
out.
I'm thinking that this guy, it was Thumbtack Jack. I'm thinking that this guy may have even had thumbtacks like in his head while he was like wrestling. I think that was his whole gimmick. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is really, really insane. Um, for a guy to be sitting there, and I believe in the match right before he throw, or either right before or right after he throws Nick Gage into this wall of light bulbs,
hmm
I believe he pulled a freaking thumbtack out of his skull and like
Yes.
threw it. And I'm just like, yeah, this is nuts. But so this is how I get introduced to Nick Gage. He gets thrown through these bulbs. A freaking bulb pierces. Oh,
This is way Doc got introduced to Nick Gage. He's seeing this guy
yeah.
about to fly into this wall, and he hears. Now I know you're wondering how I got to the situation.
How I got here. So I mean, you see the freaking bulbs shatter everywhere, and then they freak out because there's a freaking light bulb sticking out of his right side
Yeah,
under his underarm, and I'm like, blood is just gushing everywhere. And
gushing.
then he dies. They told that he dies in the helicopter,
Yeah.
and I'm just sitting there
We
like,
should have prefaced this episode saying there's a lot of graphic
I mean, it's gonna
commentary
be
for this. So
it's gonna be explicit. I mean, I'm gonna list it as explicit, but I mean, he dies in the helicopter, bro. Like that's
yeah,
nuts. And he's like, get it on camera. I want to make sure everybody knows that I would have gone back out there and finished. And I'm just like, no, you just died
you
in the
were
helicopter, so you would have like walked back out there and died heading to the ring. Like you wouldn't even made it back to the ring. Um,
again. That's mentality back then versus now. Like
I mean, that should just be mentality, period. I mean, you're dying out there, like like come
at least
on.
it's not a misery.
True, that's true. So we move on. Um, Clearly, the head of the promotion is sitting there. I think they start talking about how not only Nick Gage, but a lot of the wrestlers dealt with pain.
Yep.
So obviously, he's popping pills. They're doing heroin. They're doing all kinds of drugs and alcohol, and it's like they don't have anything else. It's just like this is it.
Yep.
There's no money coming in, so somewhere along the line we get to robbing banks, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, all right, so the guy's a wrestler. He's in GCW, and he goes to the first bank, he chickens out, he said, and he goes to the second bank and robs it. And this is the part that I found hilarious, and I had to bust out laughing because John Moxley, the best line I've ever heard John Moxley say
Oh
in his
boy.
entire career, he says, whenever I see Nick Gage coming to the ring, he always has a mask on, but he decides to rob a bank without a
Without a
mask.
mask. Yep.
And I was like, that is the best line I've ever heard from John Moxley. So I was laughing about that, and it was so funny. So the guy goes to Atlantic City, spends the money, and then comes back, gets a freaking Whopper and a 40,
Yep.
smokes some joints, and then goes to turn himself in. Like, what the heck? Well, what is
Hey,
this?
hey, he wanted to enjoy his last moments of freedom.
So he goes to jail for 4 years, obviously, we know, and gets out for 4.5 years, goes back to GCW, which is taken off. I mean, obviously, it's grown since he's been away.
Of course.
And then he gets busted on a parole violation using someone else's urine. And I think there was some other kind of device that he was using. He goes back to jail for 2 years, comes back, and he's back, right? So somewhere in there, his brother, who kind of turned on him years before, Justice Payne, I guess because of all the drug use and everything, his brother, they were distant. He gets into some trouble, and I think they were saying that they reversed, kind of reversed situations. Obviously Nick was clean, and his brother, I guess at that time, wasn't clean, and he winds up jumping or driving off of a bridge, the
Yes.
Walt Whitman
Well,
Bridge.
yep. Which, of course, you don't
Which,
know links New Jersey to
right,
Philadelphia.
right, yeah, exactly. So here we are now. Nick Gage is back and currently is the GCW World Champion, his second
Hmm.
reign, where I believe he beat John Moxley. Is that correct?
No, but John Moxley made an appearance after he won.
Gotcha.
That's what it was.
Okay, which is great. I know that helps not only GCW but AEW. Maybe one
Hmm.
day AEW might want to, take a pinky toe and dip it into the hardcore waters. I don't
They
know if
kind
they
of
want to go that
started
route.
to do that with a few things. Of course, the whole, barbed
Yeah,
wire death match, the botch at the end aside, but
yeah, then that's no good. But obviously, if they really want to do it, they'll do it.
of course.
But looking at the whole production, it was a great story. Like I said, I had never heard of them, but it's a great story. Kind of reminds me of the old school backyard wrestling documentaries that we used to see
Hmm.
all the time. But this time, it's a company, an established company, who really grew literally on the blood, sweat, and tears of others. What were your thoughts when you first saw this? Because you knew him,
Yes, yes.
so you're giving a different perspective.
I totally forgot about the robbery situation. I will tell you that.
The
Um,
bank robbery.
yes. So I did forget about that. Um, I did remember about his brother dying
Mm-hmm.
because that was like huge news within all the dirt sheets and whatnot around the time.
Gotcha.
Um, Here's the thing that I
Uh-oh.
really, really enjoyed. There's one thing I really, really enjoyed, one thing I didn't enjoy. So the thing I,
Okay.
I really, really, really enjoy was the fact that it gotten as much content in about this guy's story. Like there really wasn't a whole lot. I mean, outside of stuff that, of course, no one actually knows about, but like a
Sure.
lot of the stuff that I was brought to attention about with this story, like was actually talked about during this whole thing. So that was great.
Okay.
Um, I think the only thing I didn't like about this was how they try to wrap it up in a nice little bow at the end.
Well, because I mean, all right. So the one thing I would say is that I'm happy that they wrapped it that way. Only reason I'm happy they wrapped it that way is because in many situations like this, when
Yeah,
you look and see people who've done drugs, I mean, obviously people don't usually rob banks and live to tell about it, but you see people who've done drugs, you want that only reason you want that feel good story at the end is because most wrestlers in his situation would have indeed died already from a drug overdose or heart attack or something, which, God forbid, doesn't happen to him within the next 5 to 10 years due
of
to the
course.
amount of drugs that he's done. I don't know, of course, but that's why I think you have to give that feel good because it's not the same bloodbath from what I know. I don't watch it, of course, so I'm hoping that it's not the same bloodbath that it once was. Um, but needless to say, the feel good part is the fact that he's still alive.
Of
I
course.
mean, that's the feel good part. So I guess the one thing that we did not touch on, which is intentional, I wanted to save it for the very end of this story
I
because
know
neither one
exactly
of
what
us
you're
said it,
talking about. Yep, go for it.
and that's the former WCW champion of the world, David Arquette. Um,
Which I don't think people
who
give him as much credit as he deserves.
I, I don't think so either.
He has been on a pilgrimage to redeem because of what happened. Because it
I
was
get
just
it.
a completely crappy situation that he was brought upon. It was something that he initially didn't even agree with,
Hmm.
and for a while the wrestling world absolutely despised him for it.
Sure.
Now I wouldn't have taken a match with Nick Gage at all.
Right.
That's like taking a match with New Jack. Like,
Right. Right. I mean, I really wouldn't take a match with anybody, any of those hardcore
of
legends. I would. I
course.
mean, it's hardcore. I mean, it's like, I mean, yeah, it's one match, and of course he said, "Hey, don't cut me," but it's like,
Well, he didn't say don't cut me. He's like, don't like cut my
slice me.
yes, like
Yeah,
slice
don't
me up a
slice
lot.
me open.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I mean, he took that pizza cutter and he said, "Eat slices," you
Well, it
know.
was that, and then broken,
Oh
the
yeah.
broken light to the neck.
Well, now that was because he moved. I mean, it's kind of like a
Yes.
barbershop. It's like a barbershop thing. It's like, hey, hey, I'm moving.
Move.
I'm,
Yep.
I'm a Nikki. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a tough one. But I mean, he definitely was a trooper. I love the TMZ spot afterwards. Where it's like, so, how's that wrestling match yesterday? Huh? 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 He was like, interesting. But he lived to talk. He lived to tell it. And, it was a little nick on the neck, thank God.
Yeah. Well, I
But
mean, if you think about it, like he at the moment, like he's like, oh my gosh, like my artery just
I'm,
got cut,
yeah,
like I
yeah,
need
I'm
to be
dying.
moving.
Yeah, yeah. And this guy who I told not to cut me just cut me.
Yeah.
But wow, what an interesting show. Like I said, these Dark Side of the Ring, all these documentaries, which we're going to try to get to once a week on Tuesday because they're really good. Um, Giving us that some of that insight, you
Hmm.
know,
That
that
peek
I didn't
behind the
know.
curtain.
Yeah, just a small peek, which we didn't get at that time,
Nope.
because of kayfabe, especially a lot of the older wrestlers. So I will definitely be covering those. But anything else that we missed, Boyle, I don't even think so. It was such a good episode,
It really
full of
was.
little nuggets that I had no idea. Um, but yeah, really, really good stuff. But you know what? I think that's a good time for us to tell everybody, hey, I know you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform. Be sure if you cannot find it, which I highly doubt you won't, but you can always go to our website at www.debateamongstfriends.com. Be sure to tune in every day, Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for all of our episodes. And tomorrow, we will have more playoff game reviews. Should be a bunch of game twos in the books. Looking forward to it. And I definitely wanted to give a big prayer actually for Greg Olson's son. I don't know. I didn't get a chance to look at the article, but I think his son's in critical condition.
Hmm.
Um, the article, which I really wish these newscasters would do a better job, it just said that his son's time is running out.
Yeah, that's like push the
And I'm
envelope.
just like, come on, like you can come up with something better than that. But something may be going on with his son's heart, so definitely want to pray for him out there. And we will catch you all tomorrow. Be sure to tune in to Debate Amongst Friends for the analysis, news, and the read.